Hey, everybody, welcome to the world's okayest mountain bike podcast. It has been a while. It's been too long, really. We are basically 2 weeks since the Big Mountain Enduro happened, and we have not recorded about it. So today it's just me and Kyle. We don't have time to wait for a time that Ryan can, but everybody pray for Ryan. Ryan's in pain. He's got a hurt arm. We don't really know exactly what's wrong with it, but it hurts. We know that. Kyle, what are you up to?
Man, gosh, just trying to wait for the dirt to dry, man. It's like we've got windows here, just very small windows of available dirt to ride, and then in between doing pump tracks and stuff like that.
You can always come ride Berryman. I know you want to, real bad.
Well, as the Sunday boys say it, Chubb's good to go.
Yeah, there you go. Chubb's good to go. There's just as much pedaling to be had at Chubb if you want, as there is anywhere else. But it is a little more exciting going down the hills at Chubb, I have to admit, than it is out at the Berryman Trail, which I am about to throw some carbon wheels with the Vittoria Sierra downcountry tires on my brand new S-Works Stump Jumper Enduro and go hammer out some miles at Berryman, I think.
Clarify, Klint, you do not have a Stump Jumper Enduro. You have an S-Works Enduro.
Did I say Stump Jumper Enduro?
Yeah, you have moved on from the Stumpy life, man. I am still living in Stumpy Town. I love it.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you know what? I've gotten so used to saying Stump Jumper Evo that Stump Jumper just comes out of my mouth. But okay, I have a S-Works specialized Enduro now. Yeah, everybody. By the way, if anybody's looking for a size S3 Stump Jumper Evo frame with a dropper post and remote included, hit me up. I will make you a deal because I'm selling that and moved all the parts over to the Enduro. And I've only ridden it around town twice. And then I found out today that my RockShox Zeb Ultimate Fork, which just got serviced, that has been the single greatest bike upgrade I've ever experienced since I started riding bikes. I would say it was a bigger upgrade even than it felt switching bikes. I would say even more so than going from 27.5 to 29er. No joke.
What?
I just in my ability, how fast I can feel like I could go going down through like Powder Keg and Cannonball. I found out today that thing is trash, not because I broke it, not because it doesn't work just like it did yesterday, but because RockShox has released a new version with the Charger 3 damper and buttercups that are supposed to help smooth out the initial hit from bumps and some other things. And so now I'm like, oh, great. Now my fork is junk. Like, how am I going to ride this piece of trash?
Oh, man, Clint. It's rough times indeed. I too am on a Zeb Ultimate, and I absolutely love it. But tell me more. So I have not read the article. I've not done my homework that you asked me to do before recording this podcast, and I'm sorry. But tell me more about what they're doing with the new RockShox lineup. I'm curious. I'm a huge RockShox fan.
Well, in the forks, now, if I wanted to spend the money, I could update the damper and add the buttercups to the air spring, but I'm not going to do that because I'm tired of spending money on bikes. But apparently the new Charger 3 damper is completely different design. It's not an upgrade of the Charger 2.1. It's just a very different design. It's got an internal floating piston instead of apparently the Charger uses like a bladder type thing. I'm gonna be real honest. I have no complaints with the fork I have as it is. Like, I don't get arm pump. To me, it soaks up every size bump super well. If it was cheap, I would maybe want to try out the buttercups thing. I can't even imagine. Like, I wouldn't even be able to feel the trail, I feel like, at that point. But they did that, and then they made major overhauls to their shocks. The coil and the Super Deluxe Ultimate, the coils, the new ones have this hydraulic bottom out control. that you can dial in for the very end stroke ramp up. You can also get that on the air shocks. They've finally added high speed compression adjustment to the high end shocks. And even on the air shocks, some of them have the hydraulic bottom out control. So they've just become super extra adjustable. And so now I'm wondering if my brand new 2022 Fox Float X2 Factory Edition shock is even worth having on a bicycle at this point. It's probably a piece of trash because now there's something newer out there. And as we all know, in bicycle world, if it's newer, it's better. Always.
But Klint Kashima.
That's right. They still don't have Kashima coating. You're absolutely right. I'm going to hold on to that little tidbit real tight. Just going to just hang on to that so that I don't hate my brand new bicycle that I just got.
So all right. So the chassis haven't changed at all. So the Zeb, the Lyric, the Pike, the chassis are all.
That's not true. The chassis, the lowers on the Zeb, the new lowers have bleeders built in, kind of like the Fox does. Yep. Now you can change the internals with the Zeb, but the new Pike and the new Lyric are completely new, and there is no reverse compatibility with the new Pike.
Dang, I've got 10 miles, 12, maybe 20 miles on a brand new RockShox Lyric Ultimate that I just bought.
Might as well throw it away now.
Oh, man.
Next time you ride it, you're going to feel every bump. You're going to... So this thing's unrideable.
Well, I won't feel a thing because I can't ride a size small Juliana. But I'll make sure to tell my wife that her new bike and new fork is actually junk now.
Yep. Hey, by the way, Kyle, did you see the news last week? Finally, there are American-made flat pedals on the market, composite for only $200. Game changer. It's exactly what we needed.
I honestly think, as far as total content discussed in our chat group, I think you talk about flat pedals almost as much as you talk about tires, which is a statement.
Yeah, I've cooled down on the tire talk quite a bit over the past 6 months or so.
I just don't know if there's room for tire talk with all your flat pedal rants.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get sucked back into it now. All I'll say is I am looking forward to eventually trying the new Specialized Cannibal. Probably just throw that sucker on front and rear when my tires I have wear out. But
do you know if any of those Cannibal tires made an appearance at Fort William World Cup this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that is what the Specialized guys have been running. Didn't work out because Bruni broke his collarbone and Finn didn't race. But Bruni definitely actually was running them at what was the first World Cup? They had one like 6 or 8 weeks ago and then had a huge break. What was the first one of the year? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Wherever it was, he was running it then. And he and Finn. I mean, they basically made this tire exactly what Bruni was asking for because they didn't want him running Maxxis anymore. So they're like, we will build you the tire you want. Just tell us exactly what you want and we'll build it. And then you can run Specialized tires. And that's what happened. So it's probably pretty good. I mean, is it going to make me go any faster? Doubt it, but oh well, like I still want to try it.
Man, did you watch any of the race footage from the Fort William this weekend? It was brutal.
Yeah, there was definitely some carnage.
Oh man, yeah, just brutal and wet and rocky. I mean, it was just it was insane.
It's more wide open and high speed for sure, but I honestly don't think it looks any rockier than Shepherd.
Well, I mean,
as far as like rocks you have to smash into.
Well, remind me, what's your lap times on like Powder Keg and Cannonball? Are you 2-ish minutes?
Fort William would be twice as long time wise.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Fort William, they're running like half-minute laps, and the first 2 minutes is World Cup downhill course, like open berms and just power sweeps. But like the last the last half of that course at least up until you get to the final like jump set at the bottom, that's every bit as gnarly and as rocky and as technical as anything on Shepherd, if not more.
Oh, absolutely. It's steeper. I'm sure it's steeper and faster and more wide open. The speed's way higher. I'm not saying
higher.
I'm not saying Shepherd's gnarlier than the Fort William downhill track. But maybe that's what it sounded like. I'm just saying as far as like having to deal with rocky terrain and technical moves and like constant awareness of where your tires are, I'd say it's probably right there.
So that's funny that you said constant awareness. So I was watching recap footage, and I watched Amiri Piron winning race run, and I couldn't even conceptualize the speed at which that bike was moving and how you even make line choices at that speed.
I have no idea.
It was sped up. Like, I thought for sure I'm watching this in 2x time, but then when you look at the video is 5 minutes long, and his lap time is like 4:40. And so the video like referenced the lap time, and it was right there. So there's no way it was sped up. It was just mind blowing how fast that bike was moving. And I can't even understand how at that rate of speed you can see things and make decisions about what to do at that level.
You know what? I've thought this same thing because I've noticed on some GoPro videos from Shepherd, I've had the same experience where even, whether it's pro guys or even amateur guys, I'm like, is this sped up? But then I look at the time it takes them, like, no, that's like a pretty normal time. And right. I think it has to do with the frames per second that these cameras are running now. What the heck? We have like a random person in our Skype call.
Okay, yeah. Can you cut this out? I just saw that. What was that?
I don't know. Maybe this meeting's not like private. This is.
I don't see anybody else in here.
Somebody's trying to join. Ryan, guest user. No idea. Okay, what were we talking about? Oh, cameras. We're gonna pick this back up. Hang on just a second. Sorry for the break in continuity, everybody. We had a random, according to the Skype screen, it said guest user, send us a message. And turns out it was Ryan. But this disappeared. We didn't think he could record today. I'm not sure. He might pop in here in a second. But basically, I think, Kyle, what were we talking about? I don't know, tires? No, cameras. We're talking about cameras.
We're talking about cameras and the way a GoPro can distort what looks fast, make it look incredibly fast.
Well, you also had to think with a GoPro camera, usually it's kind of a wide angle, and you're only seeing a very short distance in front of the front tire that's clear. And in real life, you're looking a lot farther ahead. So things aren't coming at you in real life as fast as it looks like it is on camera.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. It looks insanely fast. So let's move on. We don't want to get sucked into flat pedals and tires any more than we already have. So Big Mountain Enduro, it's gone for about 2 weeks leading up to it. I woke up every morning feeling sick and stressed out. Okay. And
fun.
Well, ever since the race has been over, I have not been sick or stressed, but I have felt exhausted. I'm still tired. I still feel like I haven't regained my normal energy levels I had before the race. And it's been almost 2 weeks now.
That's wild, man.
So I don't know what to do. I think I need to just go force myself to ride and kind of maybe reset the body instead of thinking if I just keep resting, it's going to feel better.
I don't know what you're complaining about. I rode 50 miles that same Saturday, and I feel great now.
Yeah, but did you operate under a bunch of stressed out, can't eat? Like, I really think I fatigued myself with adrenaline for just way too long. I mean, it was ridiculous.
You actually taught me a term and a fatigue thing based around what's it called? Adrenal fatigue?
Adrenal fatigue, yeah.
Adrenal fatigue. I never heard
Which
of that
now,
before.
well, looking back now, it's even more ridiculous because what I didn't know at the time was how fast Devin and Joey Sapienza and Devin Hines, and then there were a couple other guys. Uh, one's a specialized rep, I think, that won the expert class. And
I
then some
bet.
I didn't know, but I didn't realize, at least with the local guys, just how fast they had gotten up to speed. And after day one, I mean, I wasn't anywhere near the front, not even close.
Impressive too, man. So Sam Kemp is a specialized inside rep. He didn't. I'm not gonna say he rode everything blind, but he said he only had tires down each stage one time before the race.
Good night.
That's
Well,
and he didn't. He had a fairly decent margin of win in the expert class too. I mean, that's
he came back like a terror on day two. He was not leading after day one.
oh really? Okay.
No, I think Devin won 4 out of the 5 stages on day one.
Okay.
And then I think Sam won like 3 or 4 or all the stages in the expert class on day two.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. But let me ask you, because I thought about doing a recap of just my own experience, but whatever. I don't know if anybody wants to listen to that. Although I will say, by far, our most listened to podcast ever was my one-man recap of my experience racing the BT Epic. So maybe I should do that, but I'll do it some other time. But Kyle, what questions, what do you want to know from me, from the perspectives of someone who raced it, that you think would be interesting to know?
How different is so like me and you, I don't have a ton of laps out there, but I've been down everything down there. I've hit like almost every feature on there, and I ride it. But I can ride it and survive it and enjoy the day riding at Shepherd. I personally am terrified at the thought of trying to find and put on speed every opportunity possible at Shepherd. How different is it for you between you're riding with your buddy Kyle out there for the day and the clock is ticking on race day, between your effort, your line choice, what you do differently? How different of an experience is it for you? Because obviously you're widely familiar with all the trails and the stages and everything. What is your side like?
Well, it was more different than I thought it was going to be. I made a lot of mistakes trying to push faster than what I normally do. And look who's joined us. Ryan Brown is in the chat.
I'm alive.
He's alive. Ryan, we did mention you at the beginning. We didn't think you would be able to join us because we know you're hurting.
I'm okay. I got a little pain meds in me. I'm good.
Okay. Well, Ryan, I was about to tell Kyle the difference between just like riding at Shepherd with your buddies and racing, which was a lot more different than I expected. Probably two things, Kyle, mainly. Like I would say two big umbrellas. The first thing is, when I ride at Shepherd, I tend to usually go pretty fast. Like I did some training before the race and I was trying to like do pretty fast laps, not 100% fast, but like get an idea of, 90% or whatever, because I didn't want to like break anything or get hurt before the race. But one major factor is that on race day, Shepherd was drier and looser than I have probably ever ridden it. Or at least in a long time. And so the lines coming into turns and stuff, I mean, after day one, I was like, okay, day two, the plan is try to get to the inside of every turn, try to stay inside. And like, you just couldn't. You would just two-wheel drift to the outside. I was in places on those trails. I can think of one place in particular on Powder Keg. Anyone who's ever ridden Powder Keg knows about the coin slot. It's kind of like, no, well, there is a coin slot on Powder Keg. Sorry, No Man's Land goes down the south side of the mountain, and there's the big coin slot. It's real steep. But just before that coin slot, there's kind of a decent section where you make sort of a downhill sweeping left-hander, and then you cross like a creek, and then you kind of come up. And I was literally 3 feet off my normal line just because of drifting around the turn to the outside of the trail. And I was riding like a hack. I was hitting all these huge rocks that I've never ridden over before in my life because I just,
Clinton,
you know,
so I went down with Clinton. We're gonna get right back to this. I went down with Clinton on Friday for kind of a track walk, a little line scouting, talking about race day plans. What were the 2 things I kept telling you the whole day we were out there?
I don't remember.
Run your race. Do what you do.
I thought I was.
I haven't figured out how to do it yet, which is why I don't race much anymore. Is that no matter how hard I train and push and ride those trails, when the beeper goes off, I ride them differently every single time. I pedal more, I brake less, and I end up in places I don't want to be, and I'm not capable of being at the rate of speed that I'm taking. And that's why I just don't race much anymore. I can't turn that off, and I haven't figured out a way to do it yet. The moto race I did kind of opened my eyes a little bit, which was we can talk about later. But yeah, no, that was my biggest worry about you out there when we were doing that track walk, was like, don't try to find new lines now. You've got 100 laps down this mountain in the past 6 months. Do what you do, run your race. And it's hard. It's hard to keep that in check.
It didn't. Well, I wouldn't say it was because I was trying to find any new lines. It's just the lines. I'm telling you, man. Other than like Mineshaft and Element 26, the trails were different. They rode totally different. Being super dry, blown out, like you did not have nearly the cornering traction we're used to out there because it's almost always damp, but the dirt's really good when it's damp. It was just a different place. I mean, the last time I'd really rode it, I went out and looked at some stuff on an e-bike on Wednesday, but I was taking care of my hand. But the Saturday before that I had ridden it, it was night and day, different place. I mean, the trails were like perfect dirt, kind of wet. And race day was just like dry and loose. And I think it did hurt me. There were definitely a lot of times I can think of sometimes on Mountain Street, especially, and a few other trails where as I'm following the trail in places where it wasn't really taped tight or at all, like in my peripheral, I'm seeing lines straight through the leaves off to the side, taking, 2 or 3 turns out of the run where you could have just straight lined, but I didn't pick up on those because I didn't get to pre-ride Thursday and Friday. But I'm not really mad though, because I think even with all the mistakes I had and how I was riding, I don't really think I might, maybe I could have gotten 4th instead of 5th, but that's about it. The amount of time I was losing to the guys in the top 3 was just I don't think I could have made that up because I really did give it 100%. And yeah, Cannonball, I crashed and went off the track twice, but other than that, I didn't have a minute worth of mistakes, everywhere else. There was no way. And I did run my race on Element 26. I figured that would be my best stage somehow, even though it's the most pedally, and it was. I think I was 3rd in my class on that stage, which was by far my best, which is hilarious because I was like the pudgiest dude in the whole race. But yeah, man, I'd just say it's always a shock when you just try to push that extra 1%, which you warned me about, how many mistakes you make out there. Like,
it's different. Race day is different, man. It really is. Every race that I've ever done that I cared about my result. Now I've done cross country races, and there's 0 expectations of results, and I have fun with those. And obviously I'm not trying to put speed on anywhere. I'm there to hang a number plate on my bike and ride my bike for the day. But the races that I've done, the enduro races that I've done, where I had like an expectation of results, it almost doesn't matter how familiar I am. Every time I would always force myself to make decisions and run less brake and run of different lines and straighter lines and this rock, and I can never get my training to match my race day, which ends up in catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, I had some scary moments. A lot of people did, though. That's kind of why I'm not really using them as an excuse, because I know everybody did something sketchy, right?
Yeah.
But
right.
And even some of the same spots, I know Devin Hines and I bounced. We both hit a G out on scorched earth, and we were talking about we didn't crash, but we like slid sideways under the tape in the exact same spot because we hit a G out so hard and off camber and just like slid right off the track. But like the coin slot on powder keg, where you kind of turn, you have to like make a 90-degree left-hand turn, go through a coin slot, like just pushed it, fracked just a tiny bit harder than I should have. Ended up bouncing, foot came unclipped. I come off like the roll drop thing with one foot. I mean, it was just like I can't think of anywhere. Maybe the bottom of no man's land on those rock slabs. I definitely went faster than I've ever gone before, and it worked out. But I can't think of anywhere else where I took a risk, like a little bit extra of a risk that I haven't taken before, and it paid off. I feel like everywhere that I tried to push it a little faster than I normally ride, or it never worked for me. Like it always ended up hurting me. But I'm still happy with how I rode. I'm happy with the fact that I was trying and I wasn't like thoroughly exhausted on the stages. I just didn't have the pace that I like straight up I either have to accept that like this is kind of is what it is, or I've got to go kind of find a new level of comfort and speed that I don't currently have. That's
yeah. Well, the other important thing too is you ran, quite potentially one of the gnarliest U.S. held enduro races that the country's going to see this year, and you survived. You know what I mean? Like your worst injury was the week before, which was kind of a scare for us. Me and Ryan both got a message about a week before the race that was quite concerning.
Oh yeah, man, I was concerned. It was fine by race day, but a week before driving home, I mean, I almost went to the hospital to get an X-ray. My hand was so swollen and hurt so bad, I couldn't touch anything.
You were the fastest dad, though, right?
I think so. Does Sam Kemp have kids?
Yeah, I mean, there's a time penalty for having kids, all right, and it's completely acceptable.
Yeah, at least in the expert class. I love making lots of qualification. If you make enough qualifications, you can pretty much put yourself at the top of anything.
Sure.
So something like fastest dad who never raced World Cup downhill expert class.
It's like baseball statistics, man.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
I'm gonna create a category, basically set it up for myself to win and or be the only person in the category. I'm gonna suggest to BME that they, instead of doing age, just like purely age type things, expert or whatever, do like expert parents, expert non-parents.
Right, and how old are your kids? Are your kids between the ages of 1 and 7? That's a different class than like 18 to 25.
Ah, good point.
They don't. 18 to 25-year-old dads don't even see their kids. They get to ride more.
Well, that's what I mean. That's exactly right. That's what I mean. So,
I gotta be in the same class.
Man, I've been watching a lot more racing this year than I usually do. So I mean, kind of classically, I mean, no surprise to anybody listening. I'm sure I've been more of a free ride guy, dirt jump guy. Like I like watching Crankworks and all the big freestyle stuff because it's really entertaining. But so this year, having the BME come to town, having the National Enduro for the moto guys come to town in the same weekend, actually, unfortunately, and then also doing some moto racing this year. I'm following racing a lot more closely, and man, I'm not over it yet. I thought for sure I was to the point where I never really care about racing again, but I'm not. I this year I want to be fast. I would like to be competitive again, So I am racing BMX this year. I don't know if I'm going to try to chase anything specific with it, but I look forward to the year that I can ride trails often enough to be competitive again. Like right now, like I'll never be able to get enough laps on a mountain or any enduro stages to be able to be competitive. And I hope sometime here in the next few years, as the kids get a little older and time becomes easier to find, that I can get out and start trying to learn how to be fast.
Yeah. Well, sorry. There's just something about racing. There's something to be said for like a legit race environment where it's like, all right, I'm going to go, like, we're going to see what I've got. Like, no excuses. The trail's clear, like, and just having it's funny because a race technically would be like a restricted environment, but within that environment, I feel like it's the most freedom you have to truly just find out what you've got, right? It's really hard to replicate that on a non-race day, even if you're trying to, because you still wonder, oh, is someone out on the trail? Or, no, if you're by yourself, it's like, well, gosh, I can't crash and get hurt because who's gonna, find me? And I feel like racing, even if you only do it once or twice a year, to me is almost this is going to make the free riders angry, but at least for going fast and pushing yourself, it's almost the freest you get to be, because truly that's the expectation, is you are going to go as fast as you can go without any, there's nothing else to think about but just going as fast as you can. And I really enjoy that. Now, it kind of sucks when you do that and you find out you're not that fast, but it is what it is. Gives you something to shoot for next time.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So no, this is a good segue. I'm going to change. I'm going to stick to BME, but we're going to change kind of how we're talking about it. So, what bike did you race at the BME, and what was the general setup of it? And I'll follow that up.
Yeah, I raced my my Stump Jumper Evo. It's only been raced once, and it's for sale. You guys didn't know, but I set it up with a Cascade link, so that made it 158 travel rear with a good amount more progression than stock. I think I ran it about 25% sag because I think it just worked better there overall. Had the Zeb Ultimate up front, and
160.
160. And what I found with the Zeb is I did not run it overly stiff on air pressure. I feel like the Zeb is happier when the top part of the stroke is a little softer. Almost on it just helps keep it calm, like in turns with lots of rocks. Keeps it from bouncing back at you. If you don't run, I found it doesn't work on that fork to not run a little bit of sag in the fork. And it has plenty of support and ramp up. I mean, I only have the one stock token in there. I used to run two, and I ended up taking it out because I think I only count like on one hand the times I bottomed it out anyway. But I ran a little less air, but I dialed in. I was running more low speed compression than normal. I think there's about 18 clicks of low speed to work with. And so I think I was about 8 out from full hard. So beyond the halfway point of stiff. And then on the high speed compression, 2 clicks in. And I just felt that was a very nice fork. I mean, when it had support when you'd brake, it was easy on the hands and the little bumps, plenty of support for hard landings. Now, I ended up getting a rear wheel built. I put an EX471 on my stock hub, and that was kind of an ordeal. But I went with the 25 mil internal rear to protect. I feel like that's just more protection for the rim. I haven't actually had any issues with flats since really before the park opened. As long as I've ran like a Maxxis DH casing or a Kenda DH casing or a Specialized DH casing, I have not had any flats. Even when I've had like these dents in my rim, the tire's always been fine. And I ordered a Vittoria airliner, which I ordered the large. So their sizing used to be that the medium was like, if you're running like 2.3 to 2.5, you would get a medium. If you're running a 2.6 or bigger, get a large. Well, technically the Specialized Eliminator I has a 2.3, which it's a big 2.3. It's more like a 2.4 or 5 at Maxxis. I bought a large airliner to stuff in there because I want the most cushion against that rim. And I ran 30 PSI even with that in there. And man, I didn't have a single rim issue. Just running the stock rim up front with a medium airliner and the Grid Gravity Butcher. It was good to go. Yeah, I think it worked really well. I don't think the bike slowed me down much. Now I think in some areas, I definitely think that like the bigger Specialized Enduro is really the bike for Shepherd. There's a reason that all the guys that could choose between those two bikes pick the Enduro. But
now, so that's actually what I was going to kind of segue into. So you raced Shepherd at a 158, 160, 29er that probably, I don't know, is probably sub 35 pounds maybe. So right at 35, 35 and a half. Now, so I'm gonna ask you this just to embarrass you. What was the guy riding who won the expert class?
He was riding the same bike. He was riding a Stumpy.
At 150, at 150, 160 with no tire inserts and a trail tire up front, actually.
Well, he's good. I don't know what else to tell you.
All right. So the next question is, all right. So like you said, you think the Enduro is the Shepherd bike, and I do completely agree with you. What do you think? How much time would you have made up if you had been on the Enduro and already comfortable with the Enduro? What would the Enduro allowed you to do out there differently than your Stumpy Evo that you raced?
Potentially nothing, but also just from what I'm feeling right now, I think the bigger bike in the higher speed sections, so the bottom third of powder keg where it's steep and it's so much rock, because with my Stumpy Emo and my tubbiness, I felt like I had to run so much air and compression in the rear that you had to ride it very actively to float, but it wasn't a bike you want to plow. It's not a bike that you just drop the heels and just plow into all the rocks. Now, maybe it could just fine. Personally, I wanted my bike to be in really good shape by the end of the race, so I rode for a guy that was like 186 pounds naked. I rode the bike. I feel like I ride the bike pretty light, like constantly lifting over stuff, just lightening up constantly instead of just smashing. I feel like I could maybe do that on the Enduro and just relax and lay off the brakes. But right now it's all speculation. Who knows? I might get out there and be like slower. I don't think that's going to happen at all, but I don't know. I don't want anyone listening to this think that like Klint's like, oh, Klint thinks if he'd have been on a different bike, he'd have won. Like, no, I don't think so.
No,
I mean, but
I'm absolutely not trying to say that.
Yeah, I don't think that like just from what I've ridden it and how it goes through bumps and how it absorbs big hits, I do think I don't think this should be controversial at all. I think probably a 2 to 2 seconds per stage is totally reasonable.
Okay.
At least for how I want to ride. I think that would be totally reasonable. And maybe slower on element 26. Maybe I'm 2 seconds slower on that one.
and that's bike versus bike, but I mean, it also depends too on what level of comfort and what level of fatigue the Enduro's allowed yourself to save from. They might have might have bought you a couple extra pedal strokes the rest of the day too. You never know.
Who knows? It'll be fun to find out.
All right, well, cool. What
So you got to watch. Poor Ryan. Ryan's just like listening. Ryan, we'll get to where you were at some point. I don't know if Ryan's talking to us or not because all I can see is his forehead. I'm gonna change my view here so I can see his whole face. Let's see here.
Sorry, let me adjust
It's all right. There's his whole face. What a good looking dude. So Kyle, you got to watch. So you got to watch everybody come through, pros, amateurs, experts, women, all that. So I don't want to do like the huge, well, yeah, we could. So I want to know, like, what were the visible things other than just like pure miles per hour? Can you think of anything that the pros were doing, like technique wise or body position or something that that an amateur like me could learn from and implement that you noticed?
So I'll be honest with you. One, I have to get out of the way and say, good Lord, the women are incredibly fast. I watched because you got the pro women followed you guys at that men's expert class before the pro men, and so I didn't get to catch all the pro men on every stage, but I caught most of the pro women, and the pace that they were at was different. It was impressive. The biggest thing that I noticed, aside from the fact that they just stayed off the brakes, because I didn't see more pedal strokes. I got to watch Richie Rood and Cody Kelly and all the elite of elite pros come through. And it wasn't that they were on the gas the entire time, but their body position was just different. The fitness that they had and the ability to, like, it seemed like they were in the same body position on the last 30 seconds of the stage as they were for the first 30 seconds of the stage. And when I'm doing those laps out there, I about halfway down, my fitness level gets my body to a survive mode rather than an attack mode. And that's what I saw. Those guys came through, and they looked fresh as can be every single second of every stage I saw them on. Like there was no visible fatigue in their body position and the way they moved stuff. They were still pulling for every bump. They were riding very, very light, not just kind of sit and plow like I get to be towards the end of some of those 4-minute laps. It was impressive at how much speed they were carrying. There wasn't that many more pedal strokes. It wasn't like they were cranking the whole way down. It was just that they had the energy and the ability to stay light and keep the bike moving without a whole lot more input.
Well, the times are incredible. Like they're just unfathomable.
It is. It was different.
I think one example will be like, I think Casper Woolley he was the fastest on Mineshaft at the end of the whole race with like a 2:16. And Sam Kemp that won expert was like a 2:33. Now that's a lot of Mississippis to count on that trail. There's some pedaling at the top, but not a ton. Once you get into the actual mineshaft, like fun part, like there's no pedaling to do, and I'm just sitting there trying to fathom how on earth you go 17 Mississippis faster, and then I don't know how many. There's probably 21 seconds faster than me, and I'm going almost as fast as I can. At that point, I was like, go fast, but at a very much like I can go this fast every time limit was kind of my thinking at that point. Like just finish clean. You're not going to make up 5 seconds now, so just get through the end and don't screw it up. But I was still trying like really hard, and I just can't understand like where 20 more, like where I could have possibly gone to make up 20 something seconds, like how the tires would stick to the trail enough. It is mind boggling how fast those guys go. And part of why I want to hear your perspective, Kyle, is one thing I hate about mountain biking that I love about motocross is you can't watch the pros. Like you might, if you do go watch, you might see them for 5 seconds, but like you can't watch what they're doing and you can't hear their braking and their pedaling, right? Like motocross, you can go watch the pros and you're like, wow, that guy was wide open all the way around that turn, right? You can see it, you can understand what they're doing, but in mountain biking, you're just like, look at the time. Wow, don't know how they did that, and I never will.
Right. No, it's different. It's a totally different thing visibly. I mean, Ryan got to watch some racing too. We know some fast guys and ride with a bunch of fast guys. Ryan is a fast guy, and watching the racing he was at it was comical how different it is between guys that have families, have jobs, and don't spend their entire day and life and career wanting to be fast on that thing and exclusively and be good at nothing else. I'm not saying they're not good at anything else. I'm just saying that's their focus. You know what I mean? It's just so different.
Yeah. So what pros, Kyle? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Mountain biking. Sorry, I'm going to chime in. I actually got something to say, guys. Mountain biking's interesting, like we've all been doing this several years now, and like, you kind of, even just when you go out and ride, you kind of compare yourself on Strava to some other people, and you're like, man, I'm going to try and be the fastest guy on that stage. But you never get to see them ride it. You never get to see really anybody ride it. All you know is yourself going through that section, and then you go, I can be faster by doing this. And then you may go do it, and you may actually be slower, even though it felt faster. So mountain biking is just so unique. And like, how do you improve, right? Like Klint, you're like, how would I improve 20 seconds or even 2 or 3, right?
5 seconds.
Yeah.
5 would be
whatever. Like, how could I improve that much? It's interesting, maybe it's bike, or maybe it is that, like Kyle said, is probably more, they're just so fit. They're not fatigued, and they can stay light on the bike and allow the bike to work as it should versus working against the bike when they're fatigued, so.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it comes down to just the level of risk taking and trust in their ability and in their tires, more or less. Because there's some sections where you're flying and the trail's narrow and there's the trees are right there, and you've got to kind of make a lot of kind of weavy left right moves. And yeah, I can metaphysically understand, like I could physically do that faster and I'm not tired. Like being tired has nothing to do with it. It's not that physical or physically demanding, but it's just like the level of risk and speed that they're willing to do, where I think this is one thing, and probably woods racing on motorcycles is similar, where it's just like, but if I do that, yes, it will probably go right. But it's like, if there's one rock that has rolled into my line that wasn't there the other day, which is very, very common at Shepherd, and I hit that going that fast, it's like, that's it. You're done. Like it's not like I might crash or slide down the trail. It's like, no, I will go flying into a tree at high speed. Period. And so that's kind of where that's why I'm not really disappointed, and kind of why maybe a more forgiving bike might help me, because the feeling I had on certain stages, particularly the bottom of Powder Keg, which I actually did all right on Powder Keg, considering how bad my mistake was at the top. I mean, my time on Powder Keg, let's say I don't come unclipped and have to roll out super slow on this one area and I can't get clipped back in. If I eliminate that dumb little mistake, my time on Powder Keg is right there with the top of my class, like very close. But there were parts on it, which I think I must have been going pretty good because I had to have made up time somewhere. But I had the thought to myself, my fingers are starting to go for the brakes. And this is all happening really fast, but my brain is going, you don't have to brake. You can probably do this without touching the brake. And then my brain goes, but if that's what it takes, then I just don't have what it takes, because I'm not willing to go another mile an hour faster right here. Even though I could, And that, when there's not a whole lot of places in the Midwest where I've had that feeling. Most of the enduros we race in the Midwest is like, oh gosh, I need to pedal more. Gosh, you got to get in some more pedal strokes, but you can't because you're too tired. It's very rarely where it's like, I actually could go faster just by not touching the brake in this straight line. It's just a straight line, sort of, but I'm not willing to do it because I'm going so fast right now. I'm afraid, like I'm scared of how fast I'm going. I haven't had that feeling on a whole lot of mountain bike trails.
Well, that's unique. I mean, that's what's unique about Shepherd, and that's why Shepherd hosts the BME round.
Yeah. So, Kyle, what pros did you get to talk to? I know you love chatting it up with as many people as you can. Did you Phil?
His favorite, of course, I will tell you without even guessing, was Rachel Strait.
Absolutely.
He did talk to me. I was there. He made sure that he reminded
that poor girl.
When
that poor girl.
Well, it's funny too because like I ran into Rachel like 5 or 6 times throughout the weekend, and we just like she happened to be just riding where I was at. And one, she looks a lot like my wife, and so that's hilarious to me. And then two, I raced with her down in Arkansas, so we got to talk a little bit back then when we did the Enduro World Series qualifier back in, was that 2019, Klint? Wait, Klint, you didn't race that with us, did you?
I didn't go to that one. I wasn't at that.
That was Ryan. Ryan was there for a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Yeah, so I talked to Rachel. I like watching. I love what Kyle Straight's doing with dual slalom, and that he's bringing it back. So we talked a little bit about that, and then Rachel also did just have a baby this year, or last year, I guess. And so we talked a little bit about kid stuff, and it was fun. And that nobody's over really bothering her. People are intimidated to talk to her. I talked to Cody Kelly a little bit because I had to ask Cody about his dual slalom race rig out at Sea Otter because he raced a 27.5 stump jumper that was set up for slalom, which I thought was pretty cool. So I had to ask him about it and kind of how he had it set up and what he did differently to it. Super nice guy. It was pretty easy to talk to. Talked to my most favorite in the pro class, Mr. Jimmy Smith. He poured me a nice, delicious cup of espresso. Klint missed out because he doesn't drink coffee because he's not human. Trying to think of who else I chatted with out there. I talked to a couple of the Trek pros. I had to make comments on their bikes because one of them had just an absolute gorgeous paint job, and I happened to catch a couple of good pictures of them as they rolled by. I didn't get to. I didn't do a whole lot of chasing. It was just kind of whoever was conveniently, unfortunately for them, in my general area when I was standing and watching. You know me, I'll kind of just talk to anybody. And if I happen to know your name because I've followed you on Instagram for the past 6 years, there's a chance I'll probably say hi.
Yeah. I will say I'm not going to name the team. Not going to name it. Not going to say. But just a word of advice from someone who used to be in marketing. Because as I understand it, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, the ultimate point of having a race team is to promote your brand so that people will buy your product.
I believe that's true.
Is that fair? Is that fair? Okay. And when you're in the Midwest, people are generally chattier, a little friendlier, that's just how we are. So if you and your whole team are out just warming up, looking at your bikes, not really doing anything, and it's the morning, and someone walks by, and there's about, 8 of you hanging out there, and someone just says, that's all they say. They don't even ask you a question. They just say, hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to Missouri. Glad you're here. Okay. That's it. They're not asking anything. They're just in a very, hey, how you doing? No, we're glad you're here. It's probably would be good if at least one person in some, whether it's a head nod or a grunt, just something, just any form of human communication would just acknowledge that that person exists in some way. Just not a conversation, nothing major, just like, oh, thanks, or just a head nod, something like that. Because I'm not gonna say who it was, but there's definitely a team. It was well before the race, people just kind of warming up, looking at their bikes, and I came by and I'm like, "Hey, welcome back to Missouri. So glad y'all are here." And no exaggeration, there were probably 8 or 9 people all there, and I kid you not a single one of them even raised their eyes and like looked at me. Now, I guess you can say I'm being a baby or whatever, but I'm like, well, I definitely won't be buying a bike from that brand probably ever.
No, it was just a little bit pretentious, man. Like, they were too cool from wherever it is that they're from to be entertaining a conversation with a Missouri hick. That's like, to me, that's how that was received. And I don't know. I agree with you, man. I think when you're a celebrity and representing a brand, it is your responsibility to bring that brand a good light, a good face, and make people a fan of you and your brand. Like Ryan knows. I mean, it's motocross. It's the same thing. I almost guarantee you there are guys that are getting paid to race that. Like, all right, here's a prime example, right? Ryan Howard for Trek. Ryan Howard doesn't race and doesn't go to Crankworks or do any. He doesn't do any big events, but he's been on a Trek Factory Pro team for the past like 12 years because he's a hilarious personality and people love him. And that's the reason why he's there, is because he's good for the brand. He's a good personality. And I think that if you're racing, I think you've still got to be more than just put up times on a board.
There's a time and a place as a spectator you should and you should not approach a racer. But well before a race, to simply say, "Welcome back to Missouri," and not get a response is simply uncalled for.
Well, it wasn't like there was just a particular racer there. It was like mechanics, camera person. Like, these are not famous people. Like, I cannot. Maybe
you go anywhere else, nobody gives a shit who these people are. They only are known who they are when they go to a bicycle race. Yeah. They go to Walmart, nobody knows them.
Well, that's fine, but I can honestly say it was so weird. I've literally never had that experience anywhere I've ever traveled in my life, including Lebanon in the Middle East. Like, it was just weird. It was just like,
yeah. Like,
I understand, like, if a certain riders, all of them even, like, they don't want to talk right now, they're trying to focus or whatever, but it was odd. I can say it was not the Specialized team. Those guys were super cool, but yeah, that's all I have to say. I'll let the listener guess as to what team I could possibly be talking about. And it also was not the Cannondale dudes either. They were pretty fun. But
yeah, well, I talked to Melina from Cannondale because I don't know if maybe I shouldn't say this. I won't drop the name, but so the shop that I work for, part-time.
There's a Cannondale bike sitting in there that they tried to get me to buy the other day. It's fine.
Okay, Momentum Cycles carries Cannondale, now we're Cannondale.
They've got a bike on the display. It's fine.
But I did want to talk to somebody riding a Cannondale because they had all the new Jekylls out there, very interesting looking bikes. I was kind of curious to see how it rides. Cannondale's pretty much known for having weird proprietary stuff in their bikes. I think they're getting a little bit better about it, but the Jekyll was still a pretty wild looking bike. And I talked to Melina from Cannondale as well. She was super nice. Like, yeah. You didn't realize that she's a pro athlete.
Yeah, I pedaled one of those Jekylls around. Of course, you can always tell everything about a bike by pedaling it around a street. But honestly, though, I kind of sprinted on it, and like, who knows when it's all grimy by the end of the day or whatever, but I honestly could not feel anything different or weird about the high pivot and the idler pulley. I mean, you can't ride a bike blindfolded, but if you could, I would not have been able to tell you, like, oh, this is a high pivot bike with an idler pulley. Like, it just felt like a normal bike. Now, I would imagine that high pivot worked pretty stinking good at Shepherd. Like, Max Beaupree made it look good. That's okay. Last thing. This is, I guess we could say, like, surprises from the weekend, or just people who stood out. I've got 2. One, there's a guy from Arkansas. Everyone calls him Turtle Boss. His name's Austin. He raced the pro class on a pivot, and he was on like I don't even know what it was, like an old Switchblade or a 429. Like it definitely was not like the big pivot enduro bike. But if you watch some of the highlight videos, it's a gray pivot. He has like a green helmet on. He goes through the big steep creek G out on powder keg faster than like anybody. Now, his overall time wasn't, I mean, it was like, I think he beat me by like 7 seconds or something overall. But I swear, this Turtle Boss went through this section. I don't know if his brakes weren't working and he couldn't slow down, but he went through so fast. So that was pretty cool. And that's a dude from Arkansas, which I've got to say, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sad that we don't get more of that crowd coming up for this race. I would love to see like a lot of those guys that I haven't seen in a while, but I don't know. We don't get much of a turnout for the BME from Arkansas. Kind of makes me sad. But the other was I'd never heard of this dude until this race, but like I am a fan now. This guy named Max Beaupre. He's from North Carolina. I think he works for Canuga, like for the bike park. And he's super short. Like he's shorter than you, Ryan. I think he's dude's like 5'4", okay?
I got longer legs than Kyle.
This is true. Everybody has longer legs than Kyle. But anyway, this dude was super fast, and he's like ripped. He's wearing sleeveless jersey, and he was loose. Like
he was awesome. He was the one
he was so cool.
The guy in the sleeveless. He was awesome.
And he was cool after the race too. He's like fist bumping me. I didn't know who he even was, but he boosted the hip and threw a huge whip at the end of the race. And he's all wound up. He's like, yeah, I almost threw it away. I almost crashed on the tabletop because I got so sideways. Blah, blah. He's sideways everywhere on the trail. Like just a wild man. And so I've followed him on Instagram because he's definitely a cinder. That's for sure. Ryan, do you want to inform our fans of just what's going on with you or not?
Yeah, it looks like Kyle's got to go, so I'll stay on and just give a quick rundown before we get off.
All right.
See you, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle.
Yeah. Feel better, buddy.
Thanks. So a year ago, I had my crash, the freak accident in the neighborhood where I broke my forearm. And at that point, they went in and put a plate in my forearm to stabilize it. Well, I was having some issues with the plate after it healed and just once I got back to normal activity. So in February, I had the plate removed. 2 Sundays ago, the National Enduro for dirt bike racing, which is the big of the big series, along with the GNCCs, all the factory off-road racers go to, was in Park Hills at St. Joe State Park. So right there by Ironton, 2 awesome, cool events on the same weekend. Unfortunately, but awesome to see that region of the state get a lot of out-of-towners who come visit and enjoy the terrain. But I was in charge of stage 1. It's just like the BME. You know, you got stages and you're timed on each stage. You had your time for the total time, and that's who wins. But I was in charge of stage 1. I ran sweeper and set up arrows on the course, ribbon, all that, just ribboning off the course. It was basically my stage, along with a buddy of mine and a couple other guys. After our stage was over, went out and was pulling arrows off the tree. We just staple arrows to the tree. Came to a stop, put my foot down, and typical Missouri, you don't know if a rock's loose or if it's firmly in the ground. And the rock rolled. I basically fell over. I fell on my arm. I had the plate removed. And believe it or not, I had fractured it right where one of the screws was that held the plate in originally. So this morning I went and had surgery and had the plate reinstalled in my arm. And they didn't go into the elbow this time, so it shouldn't give me the irritation. The old plate, the original plate, was up into my elbow. And that's what was causing a lot of the irritation. But got the plate put back in this morning, and unfortunately, just the luck continues for me. And but I got to take some time. I got to get my health right, and I got to make sure it's healed right. I'm gonna spend some time off two wheels for quite a while and do some strengthening to help strengthen my bone. I'm also gonna have some tests ran on my bones just to make sure there's no issues with bone density or anything like that. Docs don't think there is, but we're just gonna be sure. But got to focus on my health, get everything right, and someday I'll be back on two wheels. But I'm not going to get in any hurry this time, and just going to make sure I'm right so I can enjoy life with my friends and my kid and enjoy two wheels again at some point without having to worry. So that's where I'm at, guys. I'm laid up again.
I don't know if I missed it in the group chat. I did not know you were having surgery today.
Yeah.
And here you are on the call, which I had started the meeting and just did like a generic group invite, or I sent a link on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
And just figured you were working or whatever. And then you sort of joined, but it didn't say Ryan. It just said guest. I'm like,
I may have been in not figuring out how to use my Skype either. So I think I woke up from a nap and I'm like, oh, they're Skyping. Oh, right now I'm going to try and get on.
I'm very sad that you have been delayed yet again from resuming the
so I will
things you love.
In true fashion of myself and for the comedic of the show, Clinton, I concede that you are the true champion of the BT Epic this fall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess I am going to get you this year, huh?
Yeah. Hey, if you want to do it, I may even be nice enough to put you on the finest of machinery.
Are you serious?
I would do that for a friend like you, my friend.
I will, if you will let me do that, I will use my wheels and tires just to keep yours pristine. I've got cross-country stuff. Like I've got carbon wheels and
sure.
But if you will let me ride that frame, now hopefully I'll have my own by then. It won't matter, but it won't be as nice as yours.
If you don't, man, it's so sad. So literally, I got that thing. Like it was a frantic week and weekend. Like I was so busy with work, and then, I had to get down to St. Joe Park to set up stage one and help with that stuff. And I mean, I say had to, but like truly enjoy doing that stuff. And whatnot, and being around racing. Was bummed I couldn't be at the BME because I had committed to that as well. But but I had got all the parts in for my S-Works Epic Evo build. I'm gonna call it a Burley Epic Evo because I kind of built it with the intent that I could ride pretty much anything I wanted to outside of like a Shepherd Mountain bike park. So it's beefier. It's a little heavier than what somebody would probably build an XC build. But I was scrambling. I happened to have some time Saturday morning. I was home. I had to pack up and leave and get back down to St. Joe. And Brian up at the shop was like, hey, just bring that sucker up here. I'll put the final tune on it and it's good to go. And so I was so pumped, like, okay, let's get this weekend over with. I'm so ready to ride this thing and get to training, on the mountain bike and get out and ride. And then this happens. So there is beautiful S-Works Epic Evo. Maybe we'll share some pictures on the Facebook page or something of it, but it's a machine, man. I can't wait to ride it, but I would definitely let our, my compadre spend a couple hours on that sucker at BT Epic in the fall for sure.
Well, that is quite the carrot. I will get to training on my enduro. Like if I can do some big rides on my enduro and get, then when I get on that thing, I'm just gonna feel like someone, took 10 pounds off the bike.
I mean, I say Burley, it's still 25 pounds, and it's gonna lose another half pound when a few extra parts that I didn't have come in that I kind of just I bought some cheaper, heavier parts to get it built and get it rideable. But
my
25 pounds for a Burley Sender XC bike. So
My Enduro, Kyle and I weighed my Enduro after we put it together. Now this is with inserts, downhill tires, alloy wheels, but no water bottle, no tools inside of it. Actually, I had one. I had my multi-tool in it, actually. So without a water bottle or like CO2 or anything, but it did have pedals, has the wheels and tires I actually race with. We weighed it. You want to take a guess?
Oh, you told me. I'm not going to guess. You can just say it. You told me.
36.9 pounds.
Yeah.
But hey, that weight, that's just confidence that you're not going to break, that the bike can do more than you can, which is what I like.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, it sucks to hear, man, but I will, hopefully I won't need to borrow your bike by then, but if I do, I'll let you know.
I still plan on going down and camping and having a good time, so it'll be fun. So.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you could jump on. You don't sound like you've just had surgery today, but
No, I'm not bad. My arm's a little achy, as to be expected.
half an hour kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like I think he said it was a 40-minute surgery total. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I was home. Surgery was at 7. Shoot, they started wheeling me back, and I'm like, I was snoozing already when they wheeled me back. And I was home by 9. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's fast.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. I know it's kind of a long one, but yeah, now you know what happened, and feel free to email us at okstmtb@gmail.com if you have questions about the race or anything like that you want to know about, and we'll answer them next time. All right. See you, Ryan. Get better soon, bud.
See you guys. Everybody have fun.